Hamas has started to release hostages while the ceasefire in Gaza remains in effect, and the United States is deploying approximately 200 troops to Israel to assist in supporting and overseeing the ceasefire agreement in Gaza. Trump has declared that the Hamas has started to release hostages while the ceasefire in Gaza remains in effect, and the United States is deploying approximately 200 troops to Israel to assist in supporting and overseeing the ceasefire agreement in Gaza. Trump has declared that the conflict in Gaza has concluded as he embarks on a significant peace mission to the Middle East, and Netanyahu is urging Israel to come together as the release of hostages from Gaza is anticipated. The U.S. ambassador has ridiculed a UK minister's assertion of having a key role in the Gaza agreement, describing it as delusional.
North Korea introduces its most powerful nuclear strategic weapon with the capability to reach every part of the United States. China asserts that its newly developed naval laser surpasses the formidable U.S. Helios in defending against drones. Germany is set to permit its police force to shoot down drones. Trump envisions constructing a triumphal arch to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the United States. Johnson characterizes the proposed No Kings rally as an event that is both hate America and pro-Hamas. Hegseth reveals that Qatar will construct an Air Force facility at a U.S. base located in Idaho. 2 weeks prior, a new executive order from Trump ensures Qatar's security following an Israeli attack. In Taiwan, William Lai's commitment to help make America great again has sparked a debate within the country. Excessive screen exposure could impact young children's academic success, according to a study, while Denmark's Prime Minister announces plans to prohibit social media access for those under 15. New York City initiates legal action against social media firms, citing a youth mental health crisis. Additionally, California leads the way as the first state to gradually eliminate ultra-processed foods from school menus.
In the U.S., DDoS botnet Isuru blankets U.S. ISPs in record DDoS. Poland says cyber attacks on critical infrastructure rising, blames Russia. OpenAI bans suspected China-linked accounts for seeking surveillance proposals.
Australia's coal-dependent state has decided to abandon its previous plan to shut down power plants. Climate objectives are being undermined as data centers in the United States increasingly rely on coal, according to a BBC report. Renewable energy sources have surpassed coal, becoming the largest source of electricity globally. Furthermore, China has acknowledged that solar panel installations are causing irreversible alterations to desert ecosystems. Anthropic and IBM have declared a strategic alliance. Qualcomm has acquired Arduino and introduced a new Arduino board that resembles the Raspberry Pi. OpenAI's agreements related to computing have surpassed $1 trillion, elevating its valuation to $500 billion, potentially positioning it as the most valuable startup globally. Sam Altman suggests that if certain jobs are eliminated, they might not have been genuine work in the first place, according to a U.S. Senate report indicating that nearly 100 million jobs could be displaced by AI and automation. Goldman's data chief claims that although AI has exhausted its current training data, there is still more potential data to be discovered. A study reveals that managers who utilize AI to compose emails are perceived as less sincere, caring, and self-assured.
Indonesia has temporarily halted TikTok's registration process due to issues with data sharing, according to the ministry. In the United States, Apple has prohibited an application that merely stored videos documenting abuses by ICE. A man from Florida has been taken into custody on federal charges, accused of intentionally igniting what escalated into the Palisades fire. The NY Post reports that the alleged arsonist shared anti-Trump messages and attributed the wildfires to climate change. Wall Street Journal comments as follows: insurers are using cancer patients as leverage. An Indian court has instructed doctors to improve their handwriting. Furthermore, the AirPods Pro 3 have received a repairability score of 0 in an iFixit teardown, indicating they are impossible to repair. A report indicates that environmental harm is threatening the European lifestyle. Alaska experiences severe flooding that sweeps away homes, and numerous individuals are rescued from the remnants of a typhoon, as a strong nor'easter impacts the East Coast. Japan records an unprecedented number of heatstroke cases during its hottest summer on record.
Melania Trump mentions that certain children affected by the conflict in Ukraine have been reunited with their families following discussions with Putin. Recent studies suggest that it might be possible to prevent peanut allergies. A growing number of Americans perceive legal sports betting as detrimental to both society and the sports industry.
Biden is receiving radiation treatment for cancer, according to a spokesperson, while Trump is reported to be in exceptional health by the White House doctor. Jimmy Kimmel expressed his desire to have Trump appear on his show, stating, "I'll ask him." Additionally, The Verge has reported that Google is preventing AI-based searches related to Trump and dementia. Furthermore, the Wall Street Journal indicates that YouTube will pay $24.5 million to resolve a lawsuit initiated by Trump.
The Washington Post reveals that Arab nations increased their collaboration with the Israeli military during the conflict in Gaza, as indicated by documents. Israel and Hamas have reached an agreement on certain elements of Trump's proposed peace plan for Gaza, which includes the release of hostages and prisoners. The Israeli cabinet has given its approval to the initial phase of a ceasefire agreement with Hamas, facilitated by the United States. Trump has described this as a long and painful nightmare coming to an end, marking a historic moment for the Middle East. World leaders from the region are set to sign the peace plan, coinciding with the release of 20 Israeli hostages. However, Netanyahu's office has announced that he will not be attending the Gaza summit in Egypt. Japan Post stops forcing delivery staff to ride bicycles as punishment. France's postal service rolls out croissants scented stamp. In the US, lawyer caught using AI while explaining to court why he used AI.
Amazon's DNS problem knocked out half the web, likely costing billions. Jaguar Land Rover cyberattack nears £2 billion in UK's costliest hack. In the US, FCC cracks down on Chinese electronics, as US retailers remove millions of devices over national security concerns. Waymo plans to bring driverless robot access to London in 2026. Amazon plans to replace more than 500,000 jobs with robots. Miami is testing a self-driving police car that can launch drones. China bans research company that helped unearth Huawei's use of TSMC tech despite US bans. Tech insights added to unreliable entity list by state authorities. Jensen Huang says Nvidia went from 95% market share in China to 0%. I can't imagine any policymaker thinking that that's a good idea. Braving Trump, Apple's Tim Cook promises to boost China investment.
France and Spain call on EU to uphold 2035 combustion engine ban. Fossil fuels to dominate global energy use past 2050, McKinsey says. Plug-in hybrids pollute almost as much as petrol cars, report finds. IMF warns about soaring global government debt. S&P cuts France's credit rating as it forecasts higher debt pile. China's youth jobless rate falls slightly but remains high after record graduation season, as China bids to break job market curse of 35 as it raises civil service age cap. In the UK, government told to prepare for 2°C warming by 2050. Coral die-off marks Earth's first climate tipping point, scientists say. China's wind firms aim to double new turbine installations over next 5 years.
USA's DOJ, chairman of Prince Group indicted for operating Cambodian forced labor scam compounds engaged in cryptocurrency fraud schemes, and Department of Justice files largest ever forfeiture action against approximately $15 billion in Bitcoin currently in U.S. custody. In France, thieves steal treasured jewelry from Louvre in 7-minute daylight heist.
China's Commerce Ministry switches official document attachments to homegrown WPS format, sparking heated online discussions. Financial Times comments as, Trump's tariffs hand surprise win to London Metal Exchange over New York rival. Financial Times comments as, China is well positioned for a trade showdown with Trump, as reportedly China imports no U.S. soybeans in September for first time in 7 years. Previously, Trump says threatened tariffs on China, not sustainable. The Pope urges vigilance about who controls AI. Reportedly, independent newspapers disappear as private investment firms take over. Almost 70% of U.S. adults would be deemed obese based on new definition, study finds.
New York Times report that Trump said to demand Justice Department pay him $230 million for past cases, and Trump refiles his $15 billion defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. Harvard FAS cuts PhD seats by more than half across next 2 admissions cycles. TMZ stands by story after White House denial, Trump considering commuting Diddy's sentence, possibly this week. Previously, White House official pushes back on report that Trump is considering pardoning Sean Diddy Combs. Santos is released after Trump commutes his sentence.
Trump reposts AI-generated video of plane dumping sludge on No Kings protesters. Previously, Trump posts wild AI video showing him flying fighter jet, dropping sewage on No Kings protesters as, "I'm not a king." Trump says ahead of nationwide No Kings protests. The White House joins Blue Sky and instantly becomes the second most blocked account, after J.D. Vance, and Trump calls No Kings protests a joke. "I work my ass off." U.S. news outlets refuse to sign new Pentagon rules to report only official information. Also, Hegseth changes policy on how Pentagon officials communicate with Congress.
The White House announces fact sheet. President Donald J. Trump closes billion-dollar deals with Australia, including a gallium refinery. Financial Times reports that Saudi Arabia in talks for U.S. defense pact. Financial Times reports that U.S. Army taps private equity groups to help fund $150 billion revamp.
Rubio states that U.S.-Pakistan relations are not detrimental to India. Trump endorses a ceasefire deal between Thailand and Cambodia in Malaysia. Trump discloses his direct role in Israel's pager attack on Hezbollah.
SCMP previously noted, peace-loving Japan to relax weapons export regulations due to escalating security concerns. 10 days ago it was reported that Japan is considering exporting destroyers to Southeast Asia despite facing legal challenges. The Philippines is negotiating to purchase additional South Korean fighter jets, according to the aircraft manufacturer. East Timor has become a member of ASEAN, marking the bloc's first expansion since the 1990s.
In the Nexperia crisis, a Sino-Dutch conflict over the chipmaker threatens the car industry's supply chain, with Nexperia's parent company Wingitech citing cash flow risk, despite a 280% increase in quarterly profit. Previously, Bosch also warned of production risks due to the Nexperia dispute affecting auto suppliers. Meanwhile, Samsung and SK Hynix are reportedly raising memory prices by up to 30%, with long-term supply agreements being considered.
OpenAI has asked for a list of attendees at a memorial in a lawsuit related to a suicide involving ChatGPT. An Amazon Web Services (AWS) outage led to $2,000 smart beds overheating and becoming stuck in an upright position. A student in the United States was handcuffed after an artificial intelligence system mistakenly identified a bag of chips as a firearm. Trump grants pardon to former Binance CEO following guilty plea for allowing cybercrime funds to pass through the platform. Trump nominates crypto regulator Mike Selig as the new chair of the CFTC. The creators of Melania Trump's meme coin face allegations of pump and dump fraud in a lawsuit. Mosquitoes have been discovered in Iceland for the first time due to the warming climate, and the UN chief states that surpassing the 1.5°C climate target is inevitable. Additionally, the accused fentanyl kingpin, sought by both the US and Mexico, has been apprehended in Cuba several months after fleeing house arrest.
The United States increases the use of facial recognition technology at its borders to monitor non-citizens. A British journalist is detained by ICE following criticism of Israel during a tour in the United States. The U.S. government shuts down a website that reports on human rights violations committed by foreign forces armed with U.S. weapons.
Trump considers government oversight of quantum computing companies through agreements similar to those with Intel. Russia deploys sonar technology allegedly taken from the West to protect its nuclear submarines from NATO, having obtained Western technology to safeguard its nuclear submarine fleet. According to the Wall Street Journal, Trump advocates for the development of new Navy warship classes.
Apollo claims AI energy disparity will remain unresolved in our lifetime. Worldwide coal consumption reached an unprecedented peak in 2024. EA collaborates with Stability AI to accelerate 3D game design and content production.
During the COVID pandemic, inefficient IT systems resulted in a financial loss of at least $40 billion for the United States, according to a study. Air traffic controller shortages led to the suspension of flights at Los Angeles International Airport. HSBC plans to allocate $1.1 billion for possible settlements in lawsuits related to the Madoff fraud.
U.S.-China discussions outline potential agreements on rare earths and a tariff pause for consideration by Trump and Xi, with Besson stating that a framework has been reached in tariff negotiations. Rolling Stone notes Scott Besson's comments expressing empathy for soybean farmers, despite his $500 million wealth, while Axios reports Besson, a farm owner, stating, "I have felt this pain too regarding the soybean crisis." Lula expresses optimism about a U.S.-Brazil trade deal following a meeting with Trump in Malaysia. The United States imposes sanctions on the Colombian president due to accusations of not preventing cartel activities. Meanwhile, Trump is reportedly considering targeting cocaine production sites within Venezuela and has stated he will not seek approval for strikes against cartels. Venezuela criticizes what it calls a military provocation by the CIA in Trinidad and Tobago. Additionally, the U.S. has deployed an aircraft carrier to Latin America, marking a significant escalation. The Wall Street Journal reports that the U.S. has sent B-1 bombers near Venezuela, increasing military pressure. 5 days ago, the U.S. conducted strikes on 2 more suspected drug vessels on the Pacific side, resulting in the deaths of 5 individuals.
Cameroon opposition leaders detained amid protests following election outcomes. In Ivory Coast, vote counting is underway for the presidential election, with predictions that the 83-year-old incumbent will secure a 4th term. In Venezuela, President Maduro introduces an app for citizens to report all observations and claims that the U.S. is inventing a conflict and aims to strip his opponent of citizenship.
A comprehensive study reveals that AI assistants inaccurately represent news content 45% of the time, irrespective of language or region. David Solomon, CEO of Goldman Sachs, asserts that AI will not eliminate human jobs, stating, "Yes, job functions will change, but I'm excited about it." Javier Milei of Argentina pledges further reforms following a remarkable victory in the midterm elections, securing a mandate for a free market